are poised to strike.
I stand ready.
Nature is restless.
We can't build them.
Trust in my
Who
command.
threatens the wilds?
We must act. We are
Waiting on
poised to
you.
strike.
I stand ready. On your mark.
I am vigilant.
Waiting on you. On your mark.
We are poised to strike. Trust in my command.
Nature is
We must
Mark
act.
the way. Waiting on you.
I am vigilant. Your building is complete.
Is the danger.
Your building is. We must act.
On your mark.
We are poised to strike.
Waiting on you.
I am
On your
vigilant.
mark. Your move.
We must act.
I stand ready.
Your building is complete. We can't build there. I am
Waiting.
vigilant.
I stand ready.
Upgrade
Your
finished.
move.
We must act.
On your mark.
Trust in my
Mark the
command.
way. Waiting on you. Your move.
We are poised to strike.
Point the way.
I am
On
vigilant.
your mark.
We must act.
Nature is restless.
Trust in my command.
Hey Frank, how you doing?
Research finished. Your building is
Okay.
Point the way.
trust in my command.
Waiting on you. On your mark. Done.
Oop.
Waiting. I stand ready.
Command me.
On your mark.
Oh, I am watching a Warcraft 3 video of One Night Elf vs 11 Insane Computers. It's something that I often like to do while I'm programming. Yeah, it's Warcraft 3, man.
Research finished. Trust in my command. Poised to strike. Trust in my command. We are poised to strike.
On your mark.
Same here, man. Same here. I freaking love that game while growing up.
Trust in my command. I am vigilant. We are poised to strike. We must act.
Nature is restless.
Trust in my command.
What did you like to play as?
I am vigilant.
Alright.
Trust in my command.
On your mark.
Oh, I am very much a science fiction kind of person as well.
I stand ready.
Research
Command
On
me.
your mark.
Nature is restless.
All hail the human race.
Trust in my command.
Really? I have a serious bone to pick with the orcs in general.
We must act.
Keeping track of this account. No more Laravel at Matheson Projects. No, Laravel is still going to be my bread and butter, but I am going to be having an interview on Tuesday with 2 companies in regards to .NET C#. So, I need to show what I know. Orcs I appreciate for being blunt about things. You know where an orc stands on things, usually over them with a warhammer in hands. I think that might be a crack on who they are as a people. You know what? I can appreciate looking down on orcs like that as a bunch of brutes. But no, it's just one of those things of they do not seem like an elegant people or a brilliant people, so there's only one thing to do with them as a people, and that is wiping them from the face of the earth. Oh man, I do play the Elder Scrolls series, always as a Nord. Oh man, I am definitely 100% on board playing as a Nord. I am not someone who enjoys playing magical characters. I don't know if it's one of those things of I don't have time to learn about that kind of thing. But I do know as a whole, I just don't enjoy playing magical peoples.
Understood.
Alright.
Let the hunt begin. Understood.
Okay. Application. So I'm going to be needing to jump over to Index. Matheson Projects. I don't need that. I think Morrowind put everyone off magic characters because your magic regenerated so slowly you could barely use it. I went out of my way to actually figure out how to make an item that would regenerate your magic while you were playing. Thing is, in Morrowind, you couldn't play mages effectively because of that. And on top of that, you had to sleep to get your mana back. In Dungeons & Dragons, you deal with something called spell slots. And I can kind of understand where Morrowind was going when they were trying to implement that kind of system. Come on.
Your building is complete.
User scan at source. C:/user. Really? Are you really going to give me attitude? User. I'm on C. Users. C:/users /Skynet/source. Said mod replace spiders with things like wolves and bears, so I don't need the magic. No, I totally get that. Alright. Yui bash. But I really could never be on board with playing magical characters. Just
I am the Iron Hand.
was never too fun for me. And even then I broke the system. You know what? I'm hugely arachnophobic. I went third person, zoomed all the way out to fight them. So kind of fought them without seeing who's in front of you. Okay. NPM run watch. Come on. So slow. So slow.
I am vigilant.
Come on. It's just being slow.
Time is now.
You know, a spider almost killed me last year. What? How? How? How did you pick a fight with a spider? That is impressive. Resources, assets, /js/ okay. Fell down the back of my shirt when I was standing next to a bush. Oh my god, my man! Why? Why would you let that even happen? Just... oh my god, man! I'm just happy you're okay. Come on.
Trust in my command.
Whenever my program wants to run, that will be nice. Win being the keyword. Oh man. Frank, my man. Complete log of this run can be found in. Okay. Package JSON. Let's take a look. Maybe I can steal something from package JSON.
Our gold mine is running low.
Scripts. Okay. Steal this. Fell down the back. My ears and lips were swelling. Had to rush to the ER, so thankful my throat didn't swell, or could have been it. God. Gosh darn, my friend. How? I'm just still trying to comprehend. How?
Trust in my command.
Yeah, that would have been the end for you, my man.
We are poised to strike. We must act.
But holy smokes, man. I can't imagine almost dying like that. Ow.
My command. We must act.
Alright. Alright. So what's going on with that?
Our gold mine has collapsed.
Okay. RM, RF. Okay. Cannot remove dash R. Cannot remove node modules. It's a directory. Yeah, that's the point. /users trying that. Really? /users Skynet source repos.net. Deleting. Alright. Once that is done.
We are poised to strike. Our sacred
npm install global crossings. Paste.
your building is complete.
Alright, it's going to take a minute for npm to run and install everything.
I am the iron hand of justice.
Our gold mine has collapsed.
Paste. Oh, I did learn a story about something in Russia that you'd like. Okay. Fire away.
They shall not
All the lag as it's trying to install.
I am vigilant. We must act.
On your mark.
Install.
I am vigilant.
Install. And this is why I like developing off of my server as opposed to developing locally. My computer is way too slow to do almost any of this, but anything that can be done and that succeeds is by sheer force of will. There are monuments and memorials to this group of 28 soldiers who were said to be wiped out during the defense of Moscow. It was claimed they took out 18 tanks. Yeah, the Russians don't mess around.
Grove is being desecrated.
Taking on 18 tanks as infantry, I mean, that takes a pair of cojones. Turns out the story is a lie. Not only did 6 survive, one of them actually joined the German police. Wow! Makes a great propaganda story, at least. Alright. Well, everyone loves to have their mythos. And let people have their fairy tales. Really?
Our sacred grove is being desecrated. Your building is complete.
Hmm.
Our warriors have engaged the Our sacred grove is being desecrated.
The guy who joined the German police only got 15 years in prison. Thought for sure he'd have been killed, then stood up and killed again. Well, the Soviet Union, they were harsh and handing out punishments, but there was a certain line of extreme harshness and extreme permissiveness, I guess.
By the spirits,
Trust in my command.
the time is now.
npm install. Don't think I have anything for composer here.
Our sacred grove is being desecrated.
This might be a Laravel thing, and that's why it's being moody.
Our sacred grove is being desecrated. Trust in my command. Our sacred grove is being desecrated.
So shall it be.
I am vigilant. Your building is complete. Your building is complete. Your
Darn it.
building is complete.
There's a reason why I run off of just Laravel. Here it is. But, gotta learn. A military judge, Lieutenant General Nikolai Afanasiev, was in charge of finding out the truth of the story. After a year, his report to Stalin said the last stand of the soldiers did not occur. It was a pure fantasy. Oh no. Hopefully Stalin was understanding of the circumstances.
Understood. Trust in my command. Let me investigate. I am vigilant. Your building is complete.
Nature is restless.
Okay, npm audit fix.
By the spirits. None shall harm the wilds. By the spirits. Naturally. By the spirits. There it is. By the spirits.
Your building is complete.
Hmm.
For
Come on.
My command. Have you reached a verdict? Our warriors have engaged the enemy.
Run.
Vigilant.
Hmm. Let's see. Visual Studio, fantastic.
Our warriors have engaged the enemy. Justice shall be swift. Let the hunt begin. Understood. My command.
npm install webpack. Russians did make a movie of 2016 using the story. If you'd like, I can send you a link to the full movie. Please do, or send me the name.
Trust in my command. Let me investigate. I am had you reached a verdict. Our warriors have engaged the enemy.
Let's see. Wants to be lucky, that's fine.
Your building is complete.
Alright. Awesome possum. Let's see.
Naturally. Who threatens the wilds by the spirits?
Panaflov's 28 Men. Is it the story itself, or is it a story of how Lieutenant General Nikolai Afanasyev ended up exposing the story? The defense of Moscow. Ah, okay.
On Overgrowth for the grand final.
Nothing wrong with a little bit of propaganda.
Maru versus Life. Spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner. It's our blue Terran. Representing Jinair Green Wings, it is Maru. And up to the top right-hand corner, it's our red Zerg, the BlizzCon champion.
Nothing wrong with the propaganda film.
Representing StarTale, give it up for Life.
Already a slight mistake here. Any professional Zerg would have noticed this already. Life went up to 9 supply, had 100 minerals in the bank, had time and money to build the Overlord. He then built a drone, and then had to wait, then build the Overlord and went to 10 supply. A small little mistake to start this off by Life, but nothing that is game detrimental at this stage.
Yeah, slowing him down just slightly, very, very minute, and this drone is going to head over to the left-hand side, making sure that there's no kind of proxies going on over in that direction. It can be a little bit tricky later on, but I think for now, he's definitely scouting out for that.
That's the best part, I think, of this final, is these two players know each other inside out. They know each other's styles. Life showing that he knows that Mara is very capable of going for that 2 barracks, sending that drone out very early to look for it.
Yeah, the first Overlord covered the right-hand side. The second Overlord's going through the middle of where the drone and the first Overlord went, so he's going to be able to cover quite a lot of that area. And the drone also getting over there and seeing the barracks down in this location is going to give him a lot of peace of mind for that hatchery first to go uncontested.
Absolutely, and he's going to harass this building SCV trying to get the barracks, but it's so close to completion he does not need to bring another one to come repair or assist with the production of the barracks. He didn't scout the gas timing, by the way, which was a 15 gas coming out for Maru. He's been using this quite a lot recently.
Come on, install Webpack.
Builds 2 Marines, then gets the reactor, then starts adding on Marines 2 by 2, and actually starts to build that Marine count up for a potential factory starport combination attack, which we could see following this out.
Marine's already moving out, and there is an Overlord there, but you can't really get that at all. It will move up to the high ground, so Maru really wants to have a look around, potentially in the main base for the gas. But these drones were looking to block. Life had them on the high ground, just ready to pounce, but too low is that SCV.
Didn't want to reveal that small little bit of information, because that can mean quite a lot here for Maru. Could mean a potential attack that he may want to prepare or follow to scout to see if it's coming. And he could also be seeing Life screen. Life not willing to give out any free information.
If there's anything else that you want me to put on to watch, let me know.
In the previous series, but in this one, Life, he knows.
I'll be probably watching it without the subtitles, to be honest.
Maru was able to react nicely, but Life, you got to be careful against this kid. Can throw out anything.
Absolutely, and throughout this series, I'm sure he will.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Queen's already in production here. Speed gets started as well, and Maru already begins his secondary wall just to make sure he's going to be bunkered down, quite literally, very soon.
SCV making himself useful there on the other side of the map after scouting. Went to the gold base of Life, took a mineral, brought it back, can deposit that in a little bit.
That's very nice, very nice. Efficiency, that's what that is, efficiency. And more Queens will be added on. Just the third.
Yeah, I'll just find on the wretched side of the internet.
Into the middle of the map.
But pretty standard opening so far, and we see Maru, by the way, going for the 3rd command center here. Very early on, not dedicating resources towards a starport, not dedicating resources towards any types of aggression.
Looking for the Overlord on the high ground. It's not even there. Life preempted that and moved it down to the bottom right.
And because he moved that down to the bottom right, Maru's stim is now delayed. He should have already started that tech lab on that barracks to start stim pretty fast in this game. Unfortunately, he gambled with that, hoping the Overlord was there to slow Life down, and it wasn't.
Nice little move by Life in anticipation of what Maru is up to, and Barracks does land now, grabbing himself that tech lab. Bunker's going to go up in the wall, and 3rd base has gone down for Life. So, plain sailing for Life on the other side of the map. Speed's about to finish up, and Queens continue to come out.
Yeah, he's going up to a total of 5 now. Going to start spreading creep with 3, and lava injecting with the other 2.
Very nice. Can transition one of those over potentially if he wants to over to the 3rd base, but if you've got more Queens at the
Webpack quiet. Install.
Spreading creep is very, very powerful. Ling actually doesn't get too much information at the front, other than Maru is just constructing that wall.
Yeah, both players in the dark, but both players kind of feeling each other out. That Zergling and now these Hellions, starting to realize it looks like a pretty standard game coming out from both. What they're probably feeling at this point.
Yeah, neither of these really wants to take too much damage early on. He sees the 3rd base.
Yeah, the Hellions see the 3rd base pretty much completed. It's a very standard scout timing for Terran to move up with the first 2
Come
to see what the 3rd is or where it is in terms of progression, to then start to build an image of what potentially lies to the dome with the resources that would have gone into something else if the hatchery wasn't there or late.
Double Evo against double engineering base. We're going to be seeing quite a little longer game out here than anything, unless, for example, these Hellions can do huge damage. But Life has already positioned his evolution chamber as well. I think he's going to be babysitting that choke at his natural very, very well here.
Life played a little bit greedy here. Usually you'd already see started to be built as the Hellions start to come into play. But he's only building a few, a very minimal amount of Zerglings. He's focusing very heavy on his drone count, which we can see has already gone over the 50 mark.
And you can see a few more barracks up at the top there with that. So it gives him good information as to what's going on. But Maru, he loves his bio. It's going to be very, very rare that he actually deviates out of that.
Dancing and playing with fire here is life. So few defensive units. If these Hellions were to dart into a mineral line, he could do damage, but Maru's not willing to take that risk. It is a gamble when you attempt something like that.
Yeah, he was opting for the creep spread on the right-hand side of the bases to give him vision, and then the Queens were positioned on the left, so that they could have greeted the Hellions as they were come down there live. Fourth base this quickly?
Yeah, it's a complete macro game by both sides here. Life knows that at this point, if we were going to see some sort of pressure coming out from Maru early, that third command center already would have happened. He knows that this is just going to be a very standard, classic Terran versus Zerg game.
Yeah, really opening this up so greedy. 16 lings in production as well as the bending there, so now he is getting a little bit of potential out of the map, but he's already powered up quite nicely with drones. He's already at 70 at the 9-minute mark.
He's looking good. The only one weakness Life has is crease readiness.
Alright.
On the
NPM
right
audit
side.
X.
He needs to get respreading over there.
And Ling's going to head over to the third base. They do see that command center landing. He was maybe trying to find a little bit of damage, but Maru was escorting that very, very well. The Hellions are looking to nip in for a little bit of damage, but the Lings are already out.
Yeah, no blows to either player yet, but Live could be looking to get around these Marines on the third base, but Medivacs are just out, so not impossible.
Yeah, a little bit more difficult. Actually, not actually picking up that supply depot. These Lings are actually going to get in, and even into the second wall as well. A big mistake there by Maru. He's going to lose a few of these SCVs.
The first blow goes to Maru. Excellent play there by Life. He looked like he was going around to the third, but he darted through the middle and straight to the main base and has killed 4 SCVs and just been a nuisance already.
Good block there, though, by Maru to salvage the situation a little bit.
Oh, no, I could have just jumped over to here. Attempting to get out to read me.
They do not have speed yet. This is going to allow Maru to deal equal damage.
Spore Crawler gets added on, but that's not going to be too much use here as the Banelings are crashing into those Hellions at the front. He was looking for a little bit of damage himself over on the other side. That's where the Lings, but again, he should be able to push this back with the amount of Lings he has there as Queen as well. But more Lings getting once again live. How does he manage to do it?
Just darting through. Marines are trying to be waypointed out into the middle between the second and third base, and every time the Marines are going out, the Lings go in.
Yeah, he just somehow finds a way as Life kills off a few more SCV. 12 end up going down. And at least it's been cleaned up again, but Maru's looking for these drop potentials, but the Banelings are already there to greet it.
14 SCVs, a lack of mining time. Life's taking a big lead.
Oh, he's going to actually lose a lot of that, and he has to fall on back. So many more Lings.
Mistake after mistake after mistake coming
I can always, also for you, Frank, I can find a version of the movie with the subtitles or with different English subtitles. Russia isn't a huge fan of complying with American version of copyright, so yeah.
Another 4 workers here. When you're playing against the world champion, you cannot make these amateur mistakes here. These are mistakes that will lose you the tournament in the quarterfinals, the round of 16. This is the finals. He's got us really sorted out.
Life's on form. He's on point with these Lings that he's made his own throughout his career so far. As 2 Medivacs once again head over to that base. But the Mutalisks are about to pop out. 17 of them because they have so much income. And there's again, Lings find their way in to the natural, doing a little bit of damage here, slowing down everything that Maru has available to him.
Well, he's defending, but he's also trying to do a bit of aggression.
Tier fix 1 package update for 2 vulnerabilities involve breaking changes. Use MP mod fix to install breaking changes. Okay. Let's not install anything that will break anything.
Maru should be able to get cleaned up on the left too.
There's been about 25 SCVs killed in this game already by Life.
39 minutes in. Okay.
So far, so good. No turrets have been made anywhere. Only just now being added on as these Mutalisks come into play.
Boost back out again there, as he does have the safety of a few Widow Mines for these Mutalisks to not really be able to deal with, as there isn't a Overseer. Well,
look at this next mistake Maru's making. Supply block at 137. He's only just now added on the 4 supply depots in a row after losing one there.
Yeah. Adding on 2 Overseers now so that he can be able to push forwards with this little force. And The Banelings are morphing in. Live feels... He senses blood in the water, I think.
Yeah, I think he's going to try and end the series, or end this map, sorry.
That's a lot of Lings flooding forwards. The Banelings aren't morphed in quite yet, but the Mutalisks follow with this as well. I don't know, this might be a little bit over an extension. Maru is able to split quite nicely on the right-hand side. The Widowmines do a bit of damage.
Alright, what else is broken?
He needs more Banelings with this to be able to really get a killing blow.
He's going to go in again.
And try and do as much damage. The Widowmines are on cooldown. That's going to cause a lot of problems here for Maru, who takes a big chunk of
I don't need Laravel
Mix.
mix.
Back as much as he can do, but he doesn't have enough bio to be able to deal with that. The Mutalisks have been able to chase him all the way back. Here come more Lings to reinforce at the front. And Life, from start to finish, has been all over him here in game number 1, giving him a masterclass on how to play ZVT.
As
GG, game number 1.
insane.
All right.
It's a flawless victory there from Life. Absolutely flawless.
Step back a second and marvel at what Life was able to do just there. Constant pressure from start to finish, and Maru got thrown aside.
It's almost like a ruse, as Life...
I might actually go ahead and put on the movie if it doesn't have any American copyright issues.
Yet he's playing
Let's take a
as
look.
good as he did yesterday.
And Maru not feeling it.
He got absolutely pummeled there.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close. As we've said, from Maru's perspective against the players he's
Handful
played.
of.
He looks a little choked up if I'm honest with you. And I would be as well after a defeat like that. That was very, very difficult to deal with. And if that is a prelude to the rest of this series, then Maru is going to have to step it up. So join us after the break, guys.
Directed, screenplay,
And then we'll be back
music,
with day 2 of the grand final of the Intel Extreme Masters.
It made only $6 million?
Shenanigans have come out on this map in the past. As game number 2 about to begin here of the Intel Extreme Masters Grand Finals. Life leads 1-0 over Maru. These two youngsters playing their hearts out. Maru got to step it up. So spawning over on the right-hand side as our blue Terran representing Jinnae Green Wings, it is Maru.
Alright, what if I just strip that out?
And to the left, it's our red Zerg. Currently leading this series very, very...
I hope this movie I'm working on makes a sizable profit. I'm pretty sure it would.
As a multiple year StarCraft fan, watching Life play like that, it makes me, I don't know, I get the chills. I feel
Yeah.
I feel very weird that someone can play so good and everything is happening as it's meant to
Gaijin,
happen. As
for the American company known,
viewers, you can envision how things are meant to go down and how it's meant to look like, but you can never even get close to perfection. But that was so good. It was like a machine. I guess the best comparison can be like a chess player. After hundreds of years of development, everything is perfect, and that's what it looked like when he was playing there.
Yeah. When life gives you lings, you make... Well, when life gives you lava...
which game was that?
Life just... He flows like water.
It was so very impressive.
Oh, War Thunder?
Has opened up with an 11 barracks, by the way, and a second barracks behind it. So a very fast, or faster than usual first barracks, and a faster than usual second barracks here. And he's going to use the same...
Huh, I think one of my online Russian friends tried to get me to play the game with her at one point.
Then gas. Life has chosen hatchery first, then it was 15 hatchery, then 15
run dev.
no gas. He's going to have to rely on queens alone in this. Lings aren't going to cut it. He needs to get queens, he needs to save energy for queens, and he has to be...
If I had to take a guess when it comes to Gaijin Entertainment, I can't exactly risk it being played on my stream, sadly.
He was trying to, I guess, see a command center first.
Oh!
With this overlord, but
Shoot me a link!
bypassing the fact that this second barracks is just finished up.
He's so close!
Oh, he's gonna go, he's gonna go.
He's going to see the second barracks!
Uh-oh. Alright, well, Life, you've seen everything you need to see. How are you going to react? Because First Reaper's on the way. A few Lings in production. Queen is also on the way.
Let's
Bunker
take a
going down as
gander.
well. Maru Drew is going to
Hi,
ramp it up
my
from
name's
here.
John, and I'm
As
not a
much
big
as
fan
he's
of
seen
it.
it, he's now just got
Not for any particular reason, I just could never get into it. And to be honest, I never really tried.
Oh, okay. It's about someone else's.
But about a year ago, I found something
Okay.
that was so strange I couldn't pass it up. This thing was Girl and Panzer, which, to be put simply, is a high school drama with tanks. And although this sounds like the dumbest thing you have ever heard, and believe me, I did too, it kept true to a lot of the history that surrounds these World War II vehicles and their time periods. So I thought I'd analyze it. This is the history of the Panzer.
Alright.
The first episode opens with a flash forward to episode 3, with the Ori team scouting an enemy tankery team in a match. And after making a plan, our main protagonist Miho and her friend Yukari climb into their tank and begin to move. We are then introduced to the 5 main tanks of the series.
Alright. It looks like it
a Type 89 Miho.
piled.
This Japanese tank was designed in 1928 and used by Japan mostly from 1932 to 1942, and saw action all throughout Asia during its lifetime, from the Battle of Shanghai to Konkangal and even the Philippines and Burma. Second, we see a Czech 38T medium tank. Produced in 1938, this Czechoslovakian tank made its name in the German army after the annexation, and served from 1939 to 1945, with many variants being made using its chassis. Third, we have a Sturmgeschütz 3, or Stug 3 for short, an assault gun made out of the chassis of a Panzer III and designed by Germany in 1937. Of the 8 variants produced, this one is an F model, sporting the 75mm L48 gun. The tank saw service in the German army from 1940 to 1945 on all fronts. Fourth, we have an American M3 Lee medium tank. Designed in 1940, the Lee saw service mostly in North Africa with the Americans, and with the British as the Grant variant. Many also saw service on the Eastern Front under Lend-Lease. Lastly, we see what I would arguably call the true main character of the series, the Panzer IV, or Mark IV as it's called in the show. Designed in the late 1930s by the German army originally as an infantry support vehicle, this tank over the course of the war became the backbone.
M3 Lee has my sympathy for that pink paint job. I always got a kick whenever people painted over their own vehicles.
Now, unfortunately, that is about it as far as tanks go for this episode. But here's what else goes on. Back in the present after the flash forward ends, we meet our protagonist Miho, new to the school she is attending, Ori High. On her first day, she meets 2 friends, Sayori and Hana. Miho mentions that Sayori's birthday is June 22nd, which is the date of the German invasion of Russia, Operation Barbarossa, in 1941.
Just stop! Just stop it!
And that Hana's is December 16th, the same date as Germany's invasion of the Ardennes, codenamed Operation Watch on the Rhine, in 1944. The 3 are instantly inseparable because the script requires for them to be.
Let's all be best friends! Best friends! Best friends! Best friends!
Best friend.
After this, we first meet the student council, who inform Miho that the sport of tankery will be resumed at the school, and they quickly pressure her to join.
Does she have a monocle? God, that's scary.
Later that day, the student council interrupts their class for an assembly about electives, and the sport of tankery is introduced. Now this is where you really have to begin to suspend your disbelief, because to sum it up quickly, tankery is where high school girls fight in World War II style tanks for sport, but nobody dies somehow.
Somehow. Okay.
That looks fucking awesome!
The student council does show a video somewhat explaining this, and in it you do catch a glimpse of a British Mark IV, a German A7V, and a French Whippet tank, along with a few shots of Panzer IIIs. Through the assembly, Miho looks uncomfortable, but many future characters are shown being very interested. Miho, of course, picks a different elective, and her friends, who she just met literally today, are convinced to change their minds enough to tankery to support her because the script calls for it and the show ends. Just kidding. Upon hearing Miho has picked another elective, the student council calls her to the office and threatens her with expulsion if she doesn't join the tank club.
Do it or I expel your ass!
How in the hell does that work?
Her friends defend her, but she decides to do it anyways, and the final scene is the first meeting of the tankery team consisting of 5 groups. Our main characters, the student council, the history club, the volleyball team, and a handful of freshmen. They then find the Panzer IV in the garage with Miho saying it can be fixed up. And that's episode 1. The episode begins with the 5 teams looking for more tanks to complete their team. The tanks found are the ones shown in the previous episode, with the 38T found by Miho and the gang while being stalked by and later meeting Yukari, my spirit animal.
It was a mainstay of Field Marshal Rommel's 7th Panzer Division and was an important tank in the initial stages stages of the Blitzkrieg. You went kind of crazy there. Sorry.
The Stug 3 is found by the History Club, the Type 89 is found by the Volleyball Club, and the M3 Lee is found by the Freshmen. As the tanks are assembled and the characters discuss and claim them, two historical errors are made. First, Monocle Girl refers to the 38T as a light tank, when it was classed as a medium by the German army. The second is this line.
You fool! The Assault 3 is a wonderful tank. It was able to repel the fierce Russian attacks. Apologize to the Finnish.
Now this line may be wrong because it sounds like she is referring to the Winter War, when the Finns only used Stugs in the Continuation War. Also, from now on, they always call the Stug the Assault 3, which isn't wrong, but it's weird to me. 5 teams claimed their tanks, deciding on sticking with the ones they found, and this creates a few crew problems. The Panzer IV is currently understaffed with only 4 members and needing 5 with a commander, loader, gunner, driver, and radio operator. The 38T is understaffed, needing 4 crew and only having 3, a commander who also works the gun, a loader, a driver, and a radio operator. And lastly, the M3 Lee, which is the American version of the tank and only has 6 crew when it needs 7. A commander, 2 loaders, 2 gunners, a driver, and a radio operator. If this were the British M3 Grant variant, they would be fine, as the British eliminated the radio operator by creating a bulge in the back of the turret to place the radio by the commander. The Type 89 and the Stug 3 are crewed to full capacity. The teams then fix up their tanks just by washing them somehow, and they await their tankery instructor to come teach them the next day. That night, Miho and the gang visit a tank store, something I really wish existed, and we see a few references within. The walls are lined with everything from uniforms to guns to sprockets and road wheels. Also, Yakuri is my spirit animal.
That's not true! That's not true at all! They each have their own personalities, their very own traits, and they change depending on who's operating.
There's also an A7V like the one seen previously on the TV in the corner, and the Tank Arcade game is utilizing a German tank sight on the screen and the steering wheel of a Tiger 1 as controls. And I also think this game is a reference to the 1980 arcade game Battlezone. They also take a few seconds to BS the way tankery is safe.
It's okay. They use live rounds in matches, but they're used with an emphasis on the participant's safety.
And
What?
the upcoming tankery tournament and the news report on the TV. The girls then go home and eat using German mess kits. The next day, Miho runs into a human existential crisis on the way to school, and that becomes important later.
I was forever trapped in an infinite timeline of pain and suffering. I envy death.
At tankery practice, the instructor enters being airdropped from a cargo plane in a Japanese Type 10 main battle tank, the only modern tank used in the series. Although her uniform looks very American, this is the female dress uniform of the Japanese Self-Defense Forces, complete with hat. After not giving any advice at all, she throws everyone into a mock battle, and from what I can tell, the crew positions left unoccupied by the teams are the 38T having no loader, the Panzer IV having no radio operator, and the M3 Lee having no loader or gunner for the 75mm in the hall. I have no idea where the 6th girl on their team went because they should be able to at least cover the gunner position, but she's nowhere to be seen inside the tank. Miho also says this.
The tank commander indicates which direction to go with their feet.
Slow.
Yeah, she kicks the operator in the shoulder in the direction she wants to go.
But this shouldn't apply to the tanks shown. All of the tanks on the team had internal radios for communication. The kick the driver technique was used for tanks where this was not available. The ones I can think of are early at Soviet tanks where the fighting compartment and engine were so loud and the commander, who was also the gunner, would kick the driver in the shoulders to have him turn the tank. To communicate with the loader, also, he used hand signals for what shells to load. The match begins with the Type 89 and Stug 3 teams teaming up on Miho and the gang, in a not-so-subtle reference to Japan and Germany's alliance in the Second World War. But nobody can hit anything, so they're fine, and the episode ends with them about to run over Existential Crisis Girl in a field. The episode begins with Existential Crisis Girl cheating death, jumping on the tank, and chilling in the turret. The tank comes to a bridge, and Miho gets out to guide it, even though 5 seconds ago she said that it wasn't safe.
It's dangerous, so please get in the tank!
And guides them into a steel cable that breaks right as they get shot in the rear by the Stug, and survive even though in episode 1 Miho said this.
Our armor is weak, so we're out if we get hit head on.
And in reality, that shell at that range should have gone in one end of the tank and out the other.
So yeah, the intent was to kill you, Nine.
But as a result, Hana gets knocked out cold and they're
Dead in the water!
Whip
luckily,
pack.
Existential Crisis Girl, or Mako, takes over and learns how to drive by reading 3 lines of the manual.
Are you sure about that?
Then Yakuri knocks out the Stug, Type 89, and 38T with 3 shots, and the M3 Lee is taken out from engine failure.
That felt kind of good.
Then there's a fan service scene where everybody picks their jobs on the tank. I refuse to acknowledge the camouflage scene.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
With the confidence of one trial match against each other under their belts, the team challenges another school to a skirmish. And this introduces arguably one of the best things about the show. All the other schools, unlike Ori, are modeled after specific countries that were combatants in World War II. They use only their tanks, dress in their uniforms, march to their songs, and best of all, are all complete stereotypes of that country. And the first country they meet for the skirmish is the British, or St. Gloriana's Girls Academy, where no kidding, each character is named for a different kind of tea. Also, most of the time that they are on screen, the song the British Grenadiers plays, and it makes me smile to think that a song that British soldiers marched to in the 18th century is still being played and known by many. The always composed British commander Darjeeling
Fife and
decides to go
drum.
fight for the skirmish.
Or is it something
The British
else?
team sports one Mark IV Churchill infantry tank, a heavy tank produced and used by the British from 1941 to 52, and four Matilda II infantry tanks, produced and used by the British from 1938 until 1943, with some seeing service until 1945 in the Pacific.
Static
Before
gas.
the match, the British promised to not fight dirty like Saunders or Pravda, the American and Russian schools. Hey Darjeeling, how's that empire doing? And the match has begun.
Alright,
Also,
that was harsh. The tank battle scenes are going to get real crazy. Oh man, I would hope.
And they are what German military police wore during World War II to denote their status as MPs. Episode 4 is the first real battle we get to see. The battle opens with the same scene as the flash forward in Episode 1. Ori takes a position on the high ground and begins the match. This is also the next instance of suspending your disbelief that you must go through. To name a few, that Churchill is moving too fast, that Matilda is moving too fast, that Type 89 is moving too fast, that Panzer IV is moving too fast. See a pattern here? The most egregious of these are the British tanks, as the Churchill and Matilda are classified as infantry tanks, meaning they support foot soldiers and as a result are designed to be very slow because there's no point in having it go any faster than a man can walk. The Matilda's top speed cross-country is only rated at 9 miles per hour, and the Churchill's is rated at 15. In fact, the fastest tank on the whole battlefield is the Panzer 38T at 26.1 miles per hour on road, and all tanks involved look like they're going much faster than that.
Come on, watch.
The 38T and M3 Lee are knocked out, and the remaining 3 Ori tanks retreat to the city, with the British sipping tea as they chase them. One Matilda is taken out, along with the Stug 3 and Type 89, leaving the Panzer IV all alone.
Nice job, Irwin. But without the flags, huh? Of course not.
Well, until the 38T comes back and is promptly killed.
I want to go home.
Then the Panzer IV begins to defy all logic and physics in trying to win the match. You can't drift a tank. But the British still end up winning. This battle is one of the more outrageous ones, especially with the Panzer IV's antics at the end, but the exaggerated speed remains a constant throughout the series. After this, some storyline exposition about the characters happens that nobody cares about, but the episode ends with the starting positions for the tournament.
That did not work.
With Ori being paired up against Saunders, or the Americans. This video is getting long. Episode 5 begins with Miho and the gang eating at a tank-themed shop named the Leclerc Tank Cafe, a reference to the AMX Leclerc main battle tank currently used by the French Armed Forces. And there are a few references inside, including a poster with the cover art of the 1993 manga Happy Tiger, featuring a Tiger 1, and a heavy transport vehicle used to deliver the food. There's then a strategy.
Their mini Stalin is so adorable.
Oh hey Miho, I see you managed to
Send me a
stay
link.
sober until the afternoon. Congratulations.
Oh, it's Maho and Bitch Pants McFuckwit. Still have those sticks up your asses?
There's also a poster of a T-34 and a poster of a tortoise on the wall back there.
Should be pretty embarrassing if one of those teams beat the veterans that all sat around in their ivory towers coming up with that rule.
It looks like it doesn't need to be Laravel. And I can always come back to it later.
And inside her room, there's a treasure trove of World War II references. In fact, instead of listing them all off, I'm going to label them on the screen as they come up, because there are literally that many. Also, Yukuri is my spirit animal.
She's so completely into
He has a lot of spirit animals.
She can't really find friends that understand her.
After a while, Yukuri returns and reveals that she's been spying on the school they're up against first in the tournament. She plays them a video she took while there, and in it she spots the team's vehicles, which consist almost entirely of N4 Shermans and their variants. The Sherman was an American-made tank developed in 1940 and saw service in the US, British, and Soviet.
No, it's the same girl each time.
And in many other conflicts under many other flags after that. The variant
I did not catch that.
N4A1, which which sported the larger T-23 turret and a new 76mm gun, and the M4A6, a rare variant with only 75 built, featuring a multi-fuel engine and a part.
I wish I knew how to spell her name.
Also,
You
a lot of the
kitty?
tanks are shown equipped with sand skirts, which is something the Americans were not fond of and did not use much during the war. At the American school meeting, there's a historical error made. In the order of battle, the girl announcing mentions them using
One Firefly.
Now, this was a real tank that was based off the Sherman series, but it was a conversion made using the British 17-pounder gun. The US Army never used it, and it doesn't make any sense having it on the American team. The last reference in the cutaway is when Yukari is found out and asked for her class and grade, she responds,
The 6th Armored Division, Oddball, Sergeant 3rd Class. Huh?
a reference to Donald Sutherland's character in the movie Kelly's Heroes, where he plays a tank commander. Yukari then books it out of there, and back in the present day, they discuss strategy.
How'd you get out of there?
Oh my god, get down! She's got a gun!
Also, Yukari's
The
a
heck?
spirit animal.
Tanks were always my friends in the past.
The next day, the crews practice and receive uniforms for the match. After this, we get to formally meet the American team, Saunders.
You
Hall.
kitty? That's a
Stereotypes
very...
are pretty much what you would
I would expect something like Yukari,
and have a
but
ton
not
of everything.
Yukari.
There's tanks, the largest ship, and a million food trucks. They're also loud and obnoxious and very full of themselves, even bringing cheerleaders to their match.
Hey there, Anna. It's been a while. I see you're still legally dwarf, Ken.
This is the first match of the series with a flag tank that, if taken out by the enemy team, causes an automatic loss for that team. And the rest of the matches in the series are set up this way. After some dialogue, the match starts.
Fight.
And mostly consists of the Americans rushing the Ori team, and then the Ori...
Don't they typically portray Americans
There's
as
also this
blondes,
scene.
blue eyes?
You know this whole joke? The American president used to show off quite a bit. He said, "We have everything in our country." Then a foreign reporter asked him, "Does that include the hotline to hell?"
That I thought was going to be another niche historical reference, but I can't for the life of me figure out what the hell she is talking about. But from what I can gather, it's some kind of statement on the Americans cheating. And yes, of course, the Americans cheat. And this is revealed a few scenes later when they begin listening to Ori's radios.
Isn't that illegal?
What did you just say to me?
I'm pretty sure this requires a warrant.
Are you some kind of fucking commie?
This may be a reference to the Allies breaking the German Enigma code during World War II. Miho soon figures this out, though, and begins giving fake...
It wasn't the Americans, it was the British who broke the code.
They then later lure two Shermans out into the open, where one is destroyed by the Stug 3.
Alright, let's cap their flag tank, get the fuck out of trailer park hell.
This episode begins with the crowd in shock that the Americans lost a tank and Miho continuing to give false orders over the radio. Mental Breakdown Girl
Really?
begins to get cocky and has her team begin to walk into a trap. Type 89 runs into the enemy flag tank and they have an awkward moment. I feel like I've seen this before. Also, once again, the Type 89 is an infantry tank with a top speed of 16
We
miles
did correct the
an hour.
Japanese code, so it's more a 1
30
point
miles an hour.
USA,
So this
1
should
point
be a
UK.
chase.
Okay.
But thou must do what thine script commands. Also, the script becomes self-aware for a second.
What are you doing? They're only at Type 89, you know?
But the chase leads to the American flag tank being ambushed, and the Ori team chases it with the Americans chasing them. As this girl loses it, spouting Americanisms as she goes.
School is on a different level than yours! Who the hell do those girls think they are? They can't do squat and they're trying to come after us! Their school's getting shut down soon anyway!
Then there's freeway being taken out until the Panzer IV gets to higher ground and kills the American tank right as the Firefly kills the Panzer IV, winning Ori the match. And once again, that 17-pounder shot should have liquefied the Panzer IV crew, but this sport is safe somehow.
For God's sakes, Miho, get in the tank!
Then there's some plot and a few characters fly off in a German FA-233 Drache, a dual-rotor helicopter developed in 1940 and produced an extremely
Laravel X.
but a combination of unreliability and its factories being bombed caused it to have a virtually non-existent service life. But I'm willing to bet we paperclipped whoever developed it. Close the episode, we are shown a clip of the next team against Ori in the tournament, Pravda, or the Russians. moments after their victory.
Install Laravel.
Several T-34s overlooking a burned-out twin-turret 7TP tank. The 7TP, or 7-ton, was a light tank produced by Poland from 1935 to 39, and saw action during the German-Soviet invasion of Poland in 1939, with some seeing service in German occupation divisions throughout the war. And there was also
That scene with reality applied always makes me laugh.
And right after this, there's a brief clip of the German team leader in a Tiger 1 overlooking a field of destroyed Type 95 Ha-Go tanks from the defeated Japanese school. And if you look closely, you can also see a Type 45 C-Low and a Type 99 Rut-Row.
Let's jump to part 2.
I wanted to skip this one, but there's some tank stuff in it, so I couldn't do it. But the first half is all plot. You do, though, get the backstory
sweet.
why Miho was being so cringy about tank.
I just got $300 in AWS credits. That is fantastic.
To help some people not drown, and her family disowned her for it. I personally think in a sport that's supposedly safe as tankery, that if you see someone in real danger, you'd be commended to go help them, but apparently that doesn't apply. You need to be in the way of shells that aren't going to hurt you. But in the flashback, the number on the turret of the Tiger tank she is in is 217, which is the turret number of tank ace Otto Carius, who was a Tiger tank commander in World War II. Then there's another 20 minutes of plot and practicing until the team goes looking for more tanks to beef up their numbers, and in the process they kind of explain the school aircraft carriers.
Why are we on a ship? To produce highly trained individuals capable of excelling in any field.
Miho and Hana find a 75mm KWK-40 L-43 high-velocity cannon for the Panzer IV that will upgrade it from a D model to an F2.
Everything is so
In
slow.
reality, this move was made in 1942 by the German army to move the Panzer IV from an infantry support role to an anti-tank role to take on the heavier Soviet vehicles. The History Club and Yukuri then find a French Char B tank in the river. Used by the French from 1936 to 1940, this tank made its name during the Battle for France in 1940, and being a very difficult obstacle for the German panzers to deal with. It did have some large shortcomings, namely its abysmal speed of 24 kilometers an hour.
There needs to be a better way. I wonder, can I actually run Vue.js things off the server and actually just apply it locally? I mean,
also, Yukuri's my spirit animal.
That's the way to go, Montgomery.
Say, isn't that a little...
How about Guderian?
They then journey into the ship to find the lost freshman team using a compass and in a closed metal space, somehow.
What? What the fuck?
And in the process find a Porsche Tiger, but more on that later. The episode closes with them completely skipping over the match against the Italians, because the Italians are never going to live down their World War II performance and is remembered only to be a meme in history. But they show a few of their tanks for a second. This episode begins with Katyusha, the leader of the Russian team,
Katyusha?
which may be a reference to Stalin and Churchill meeting in
I
Moscow
love
in
it.
1942 to discuss the war. At this, Darjeeling spouts some more deep bullshit while Mini Stalin acts as Russian as she possibly can.
You go to Gulag.
The Nutcracker Suite by Tchaikovsky plays in the background. The Panzer IV is shown to have been upgraded, and a crew is assigned to the Char B.
Interestingly, Good Luck
This
is
tank
a
also understaffed, with the crew
actual
with the commanders who also
like
works as the
acronym.
loader and gunner
Fun
for
fact of the day.
75mm in the turret, a loader for the 75mm in the hull,
It's supposed to be written out as like Gulag.
and a radio operator. On the Girls and Panzer wiki, they explained this by saying the commander also works the radio, and although the radio position on the Char B was right under the commander, the French added this extra man because the commander could not be expected to spend a lot of his time crouched on the floor when he was supposed to command the tank. French tank design is very strange. Later, the student council meets with Miho and says this.
We've passed a latitude of 50 degrees north.
The 50th parallel is about where Russia...
It'd be great if I can get $300 worth of credit.
Then see Miho playing for the match, where you hear her say...
Prov is pretty good on the counterattack after all.
Referencing the slew of successful counterattacks pulled off by the Red Army during the war. We then see Ori right before the match, where Miho mentions putting Winterkitten on their tank. These were track extensions put on Panzer III's and IV's tracks in the winter in Russia to help with traction in the snow, were used widely on the Eastern Front. You then formally meet the Russian team. Their name Pravda is a reference to the official newspaper of the Soviet Communist Party published throughout the USSR, and their leader's name Katusha is a reference to a Soviet marching song from the time of the war. Katusha herself arrives in a truck armed with launchers for Katusha rockets, which were used to strike terror into German soldiers. I mean, just listen to it. Fuck that. We then get our first look at Pravda's tanks, including an IS-2, the Soviets' answer to the big cats that the Germans were producing, that when developed mid-war was a huge shock to the Wehrmacht when it debuted in 1944. Second, we see a KV-2, a heavy tank meant to be an offensive weapon to destroy concrete emplacements, but saw success against German panzers during the initial invasion of Russia in 1941. Seriously, go look up the battles the KV-2s were in. They're insane and what Wikipedia was meant for. I also made my own video on the KV-2 if you want to check it out. The rest of the team is composed of T-34s, which were the backbone of the Russian armored force in World War II. You see both T-34-76s, which were early war models, and T-34-85s, which were a mid-war upgrade that increased the turret size for a bigger cannon and another crew member so the commander could focus on commanding the tank and not do double duty. They then charged to an... and the show's rendition of the song Katusha, the aforementioned Russian marching song. Ori decides to attack head-on, and it goes about as well as expected, with the Sharby having some trouble in what I imagine is a reference to its slow speed. There's also a Stalingrad reference, because it's required when you have a battle in the snow. After taking out a couple T-34s, Ori is surrounded in a pincer movement. I feel like I've seen this before. Run. And Ori retreats into a church with the Panzer IV bouncing shells that it probably shouldn't bounce. Katusha then asks for surrender under a white flag, and Monocle Girl quotes General McAuliffe at Bastogne.
Please surrender.
Got him!
But everybody's pretty bummed out about it. But then the student council informs everybody the school will be shut down if they lose the tournament, and everyone is even more bummed out. But you'll never guess who wins. Oh my god, maybe it's the main characters, I don't know. After a plot flashback, we see everyone is stuck in the church under the Russian siege, freezing. The Stalingrad references are very direct. Miho rallies everyone with a rousing speech, and they begin to plan their breakout. Katusha is seen sleeping in a Soviet RF-8 fan-driven snowmobile, as Nona sings the Cossack lullaby to her. The RF-8 was developed in 1942 and was often used in reconnaissance activities for the Red Army and to support the ski troops. Miho sends cosplay girl Yakuri to do recon, and we are treated to this.
Marching in the snow and treading the ice. We can't tell what was a river or what was a road. The horse collapses, but we can't leave it behind. Everywhere we go, we're in the midst of the enemy.
Now what they are trying to sing sounds like this. Now, I guess this doesn't translate very well, but I would think you could at least, have the two of their voices sync up or something. I don't see why they took take one and were just like, yeah, that'll do.
Maybe that's intentional.
This song, which roughly translates to Snowy March, is a Japanese marching song recounting a veteran's feelings after the battle of... I'm not even going to try to pronounce that.
What highway?
The Japanese Empire and the Chinese Empire in the First Sino-Japanese War. Also, Mako and one of the Helmet Girls do some recon to spot tanks, and this is said.
It's a Stalin 2.
A JS2.
Now, I always call this tank an IS-2, but it all comes
down
to how you
If
you pronounce it like this,
forward to victory.
JS2. But if you pronounce it like this, which is closer
Joseph
to the Russian
Stalin.
pronunciation, it's an IS-2. Neither are wrong, but I see people get into arguments over this all the time. Everyone gets back, and there are more Stalingrad references.
Joseph.
Any more food? We didn't expect the situation, so we gave out the soup and only have crackers left.
We don't have anything left to eat.
Also, the History Club references the Hakoda Mountains incident, where in 1902, 193 men of the Imperial Japanese Army froze to death on the excursion, and it has since been observed as one of the worst mountaineering disasters in human history. Miho rallies the team with some cringe, and the plot armor covers the breakout. If only Paulus had plot armor.
You just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Ori charges at Pravda, destroying a few T-34s in the process, provoking a chase. And the 38T goes ham before being knocked out. After
T-34s were pretty badass and very innovative.
The M3 Lee is knocked out as Ori runs into and kills the KV-2.
Though I've always been curious how Soviet tanks would have stood up to US tanks in World War II.
Pravda is out, and Mini Stalin loses her composure faster than real Stalin when the Germans came knocking. Also, I would count a tank's track being shot out as a knockout in this sport, but plot. The student council plans for the next match, and decides to look for more tanks.
You should write a book.
The Automotive Club has repaired the previously found Porsche Tiger, which in reality was the competing design to Henschel's that later went into production. It had a list of failings and was really a very poor tank, and the show references this. If you want to know more about the Porsche Tiger, I actually did a full video on it.
Porsche Tiger?
Check it out in the link below if you're interested. Also, Yukari is my spirit animal.
It pains you to call the tank, doesn't it? It might have a bad belt system design, but its 88mm cannon is really powerful.
The various teams then go looking for more tanks. Student Council upgrades their 38T into a Hetzer. But in reality, the Hetzer's development was not this simple. Despite the appearance, the Hetzer was not simply built on the existing 38T chassis design. It simply took advantage of the parts already being manufactured in the already existing medium tank. The Hetzer was wider, had a modified suspension, and an upgraded engine, just to name a few changes. Also, there is little to no evidence the name Hetzer was actually used by German crews, and is most likely a post-war name. The Germans just called it a Jagdpanzer 38T. With the modification, though, the student council team is still understaffed, still needing a loader. They also add side armor skirting to the Panzer IV hull and turret called Schürzen, which technically upgrades it to an H model. Although in the production runs for Panzer IV H's, there were various other changes.
Ferdinand Porsche messed up badly designing that tank. And yet he designs an insanely expensive car.
To add to the team. The Type 3 was an upgraded version of the Type 97 Chai Ha, incorporating a long 75mm gun and a larger turret ring, making it one of the largest tanks the Japanese built. But as with most Japanese tanks developed late in the war, it was retained for the defense of the home islands and never saw service. It's decided the Automotive Club will crew the Porsche Tiger, and that leaves this tank understaffed as well, with 4 crew needing 5, a commander, loader, gunner, driver, and radio operator. A new team is recruited for the Type 3, made up of 3 people who met online playing a tank game. What could that possibly be? Tank crew so far, though, with 3 members needing 5. A commander, loader, gunner, driver, and radio operator. And if you're wondering the reason I harp on this, it's because the tanks from all the other schools are always seen being crewed to capacity. So this seems like a strange deliberate action to take away from the very spot-on historical accuracy of all the visuals in the show. Anyways, then there's some plot. The night before the match, all the teams hang out together. In the dub, you are treated to this gym.
We'll win!
And the freshman team,
Come on, Laravel.
Heroes with one of the Tiger scenes recreated.
Well, here's where things get worse. Instead of scrapping the tank, they build 90 chassis for it and put this big blocky structure on it with a long 88mm gun, and it did not work. Big goof.
Operation Bagration was a Soviet
Big goof.
launched on June 22nd, 1944 that utterly destroyed the German Army Group Center. In fact, destroyed might be an understatement. The Army Group Center pretty much ceased to exist. We then see the enemy team, Koromori Mine, or the Germans.
Like, that's the height of oof.
Will probably come attack us all at once the second the match starts.
Which pretty much describes World War II in a nutshell, with a front-loaded German offensive that later gets bogged down into a attritional war.
The guy who made this video did a video on that vehicle, and it's so funny. Hey, if you want to throw that link up, I'll put it up next.
First you see a Jagdpanzer IV. This tank destroyer, developed in 1940, mounted the same 75mm L70 gun as the Panther in the latter third of its production run. Although fairly reliable and effective, only around 900 were produced. Second is a Panther. Rushed into service in 1943, this tank was very unreliable early in its production run, but as the war drug on, various improvements were made that eventually earned it the title of one of the best tanks of the war, with good armor and the aforementioned deadly gun. Next, a Jagdpanther, the tank destroyer variant of the Panther, mounting the 88mm L70 gun of the Tiger II. Although used to great success, very few of these were built as
Building this out just makes me wonder about building out a few different things.
Competition with the Soviets, the Tiger II. First fielded in 1944, this tank, meant to be Hitler's wonder weapon, had a less than stellar performance in the field due to an underpowered engine and transmission. Then, a Jagdtiger. The Tiger II's tank destroyer variant armed with a massive 128mm PaK-44 L55 gun. Hi, my name's Johnny, and today we're going to talk about fielded in the war, weighing in at nearly 72 Ferdinand tank destroyer. It, though, was also very punched with awesome and problems and made little impact as it debuted so late in the war, being fielded even after the Tiger II. Then there is a Ferdinand tank destroyer, the thing the Porsche Tiger later became. And for more than you want to know about this vehicle, check out the link below. Lastly, there is a Tiger I. This German heavy tank debuted in 1942 and was a direct response to the heavy tanks the Germans ran into in France and Russia. It has since become the poster child for German tanks in World War II due to its deadly reputation. Also, this Tiger has the number 212 on its turret, which is the turret number for German tank ace Michael Wittmann.
Oh, finally, it's building.
The Germans attacked quickly through the forest, prompting this line.
They used the forest as a shortcut?
Which is a reference to the German invasion of France, where the German army sidestepped the Maginot Line, attacking through the Ardennes, a dense forest thought to be impassable by motorized divisions. The Type 3 is knocked out almost immediately, probably in reference to its short service life.
This JS Bootstrap JS. Cannot resolve jQuery.
With the Type 3 out, Ori retreats looking for a better position while releasing smoke to mask their movements.
Really?
Eventually taking a position on a hill, the Germans follow. The Hetzer immobilizes the Jagdpanther and a Panther, but this does little to stop the attack. The Germans charge up the hill, and a few vehicles do better with the incline than they should. Namely the Ferdinand, or Elephant, as this example is a late war refit model, and the Jagdtiger. Both had very underpowered drivetrains for their weight, which should give them a lot of trouble with the hill. Reports of Ferdinands at Kursk mention many vehicles being lost due to engine fires when they became overstressed ascending a hill to get to a firing position.
Let's see.
And Jagdtigers were being lost left and right at the end of the war due to transmission overstress.
So, JS
this
build.
Is kind of a stretch. The Hetzer bullies the Jagdpanther again.
Hooray. Tracks.
Wow! That was vulgar.
Hetzer, Ori charges down the hill.
Cannot resolve jQuery.
Darjeeling says this.
They started using heavy tanks
Really?
against Pravda, but it worked against them here.
Which is a reference to the heavy tank arms race between the Soviet Union and Germany in World War II that ended up producing many of the tanks we see Kuromori Mine use in the show. The Tiger II throws a trap, giving Ori time to redeploy. Then there's a river crossing scene that's too long. Yukuri is seen spotting using an EM-R36 rangefinder, a German stereoscopic rangefinder from World War II. Ori
Always one more thing.
Towards the city where it encounters a Panzer III, but the Panzer III leads them into the German team's mouse tank.
Damn, boy. Damn, boy, he's thick. Boy, that's a thick-ass boy. Damn.
The mouse was supposed to be the next step in the German heavy tank program, weighing 188 tons, crowning it the title of the world's largest super heavy tank, and packing the same gun as the Jagdtiger, with an additional coaxial 75mm cannon. This thing was meant to be a bunker on tracks, impervious to all anti-tank guns it came across. However, this thing was little more than a pipe dream, with only 2 prototypes built that never saw service. If it did somehow manage to see service, though, I think it would have just made nice target practice for Sturmovik pilots, as the thing was incredibly impractical and slow. In the perfect world of the show, though, it is quite the force to be reckoned with. The Char B attempts to kill it and is promptly destroyed.
What a fool you are. I'm a god. How can you kill a god?
The Stug is also killed as Ori retreats to the Germans advancing to the Panzer League.
Alright, I guess it's that simple.
Allows the mouse to be taken out, even though Ori probably could have just outrun and ignored it, and the German team makes it into the city. The Hetzer dies from damage, and the lead takes out the Elephant with a shot to the rear. And this was kind of foreshadowed with the scene from Kelly's Heroes that the freshmen were watching in the previous episode. The Jagdtiger takes out the lead right before falling into a ditch. The Porsche Tiger blocks off the route for most of the German team to get to Miho, leaving one enemy Tiger in the Panzer IV, both of which are flag tanks, to duel it out one-on-one. The Porsche Tiger bounces a lot of shells that it probably wouldn't, especially at that range, before eventually being taken out. But it buys Miho enough time to have a Need for Speed-style chase with the enemy Tiger, and eventually taking it out, winning Ori the match, even though the Ori flag tank was once again immobilized. Everyone celebrates, there's some plot, and the show ends with a parade. This part is just my thoughts on the show, so feel free to click away. Although the plot is predictable, the characters are kind of dumb at times, and I'm not an anime fan, I am extremely impressed at the historical detail put into this show. Not just the tanks, which are displayed perfectly to the smallest detail, even in that
Mihitu, what's going on here? Why and what are we converting from PHP to .NET? So, I have a personal website, and what I am going to be doing is converting it from a Laravel Vue.js site and AWS over to .NET, C#, Vue.js, and leveraging Azure. The reason I'm doing this is because I have an interview on Tuesday where I need to be able to demonstrate my ability to learn .NET, C#, and also take a little bit of initiative.
When I started this channel and this series, I honestly didn't think it would go anywhere, and the response has been overwhelming. So thank you so much, and I promise I will continue to make videos you will all like.
I don't need credit. I need a job. So now let's go and learn about this nightmare of a tank, the Ferdinand. What not to do when building a tank.
The story of this vehicle begins in the late 30s, early 40s, when the German army decides that they need a heavier breakthrough tank for its forces. The German army had recently been noticing the shortcomings in its tanks. First, it invaded France and had trouble with heavier tanks such as the Char B, and then especially once they invade Russia and run into the T-34. And the main objective of this new tank was to mount the 88mm L56 high-velocity gun, which was the most effective.
I don't think I need this as well.
Both the Henschel and Porsche companies were contracted to make prototypes, and the best one would win and get the contract. And it is from the Porsche prototype.
Alright. Let's see if this works now.
It is quite the story.
Fucking thing sucks!
Now, Ferdinand Porsche was nothing new.
Frank, you could have... I'm not a big fan of vulgarity on my stream.
And he was always fairly ambitious and trying to break new ground with his project. And he very much kept to this theme with his Tiger bid. Instead of using a single engine design that through a drivetrain went to a transmission that powered the drive sprockets, Porsche decided to think outside of the box and use a petrol-electric generator drive. Now the way this works is you essentially have two gasoline or diesel engines that power two electric generators that then provide power to the drive sprockets at the rear of the vehicle, which then propels the vehicle forward. Now, petrol-electric drive was nothing new at this point. It had been used on things like buses, but it had never been used on a very heavy armored fighting vehicle. And this became evident as soon as Porsche started putting his prototype together. He had mountains of problems getting the thing just to work. One of the biggest issues he had was to cram both engines and both generators into the size the Tiger needed to be. He didn't have significant room for cooling, and oftentimes the engines overheated, malfunctioned, or just burst into flames.
I am using a few capture devices.
Also causing catastrophic breakdowns and engine fires. And although some of these flaws were worked out before the submission, Porsche's prototype failed utterly against Henschel's submission. I mean, it was so bad that the engine failed and caught fire before
it's just a little bit of a pain.
And actually, after much digging, I was able to find some colorized footage of that exact event.
Trying to resolve components. Okay.
Now, after this large failure, the German army did the sensible thing and picked the Henschel version, and that eventually became the Tiger we all know and love. And this would be the end of the Porsche Tiger, and this whole disaster would have never been heard from again. Except there was one problem. About 90 of them. Porsche was so confident in his design that he had already begun producing hulls for his tank that didn't work. And once the Porsche design was turned down, Germany realized that they had just spent all this money, metal, and material...
npm install save yes. Promise/auto.
I personally think at that point you just take the loss, melt them down, turn them into some stoogs or something, useful, but this is what they went with, and it's really dumb. It was decided that these rejected Tiger prototype hulls would be made into a tank destroyer that would be able to mount the 88mm L70 gun eventually seen on the...
I just want to get this working so that I can actually turn around and focus on the .NET C# side of things. I typically am working off of a server, so I could do development, so
And along with this
I might later look into seeing if I can set it up on my server so that I'm not using so many of my personal system resources. But with .NET C#, don't know how to configure it on Ubuntu yet. But it's on my to-do list.
Due to its engines being overstressed by weight already. By adding all that tonnage on, you're just asking for more problems. Once it was all said and done, about 90 Ferdinands had been created, along with one command tank that sported the Henschel turret like the original prototype.
Cancel.
And a couple recovery vehicles.
What?
The vehicles were assigned to Tank Destroyer Battalions 653 and 654, with 45 vehicles in each unit respectively, and were shipped off to the Eastern Front to take place in Operation Citadel. Their performance, though, was about as you could expect, with many vehicles destroying themselves before they could even get into the fight, with issues like gas line fires and just engine failure. Even once in the field, a lot of mechanical problems plagued the crews, with many tanks having to be destroyed by their crews themselves once they had broken down. There's even a report of several Ferdinands being destroyed from engine failure when trying to climb a hill to get to a firing position.
The Ferdinand could not handle the ascent of the hill.
You know, that's one nice thing about Laravel. Use a Homestead box or something and you're good to go. Oh god, yes. Laravel is a godsend for things like that.
The crews got out and ran away.
Another issue people often bring up is the fact that it had no self-defense weapon, an MG34 in the hull or anything like that. Although this was an issue, I think too much is made out of this. You gotta remember that most German tank destroyers didn't have a front-mounted machine gun. The Stug 3, the Hetzer, they didn't. And although they
I did a long time ago.
The German doctrine for tank destroyers was to
But I ended up getting pigeonholed into doing PHP only development for the longest time, so I never got a chance to go back to it.
Tanks getting so close to each other and infantry being everywhere.
Syntax is syntax, and it's a matter of learning for me. It's to help me do better on my job interview. What? npm install ES6 promise.
The Ferdinands did pretty well. Battalion 653 after the battle reported
What do you typically work off of, Mihidu?
tanks and only losing 13 Ferdinands. So, not bad, I guess, but it still doesn't really seem worth it. After the battle, about 50 or so Ferdinands remained. Many complaints about the vehicle's shortcomings were made by their commanders, and in September of 1943, 48 of those 50 vehicles were sent back to the factory so they were fitted with upgrades. These included a close defense MG34 mounted in a ball mount in the hull, a commander's cupola taken off the Stug 3, Zimmermann paste applied to most of the vehicle, a frontal armor increase, and the tracks being widened.
Yes, your preferred stack.
Power system, and we have once again increased our weight from 65 tons to about 70 tons.
Oh, me too.
Didn't just set them on fire themselves. Anyways, there was official name change on May 1st,
Lemp.
1944 from Ferdinand.
Okay, Linux.
Changes between the two, and the
Don't know what E is supposed to be.
mountainous place. Because why not?
MySQL, PHP, or Python. Or Perl if you're real old school. I've not seen Perl in ages.
The breakdowns happen just as often.
Oh, Neginix.
A few of them saw service.
Let's use a character that is not in there. People will get that, right? I think when I was actually looking into .NET and running it off of my
Why would you take this thing that obviously didn't work?
Trying to figure out how to run it off of my server, I actually have to set it up with Nginx.
Germany was having all kinds
Oh, that explains it. Nginx. Okay. Today I learned.
And I think it sort of speaks to the German mentality going towards the war. We're going to make something that on paper is going to be really great, really awesome, have this big gun, have this big futuristic sort of drivetrain. But in reality it doesn't work. And instead of just letting it go like any other country would, They just had to keep trying to field it and had to keep trying to make it better. The US Army had a hell of a time coming up with the right design for the M26 Pershing, going through prototype after prototype.
So are you more of a PHP or Python person?
Germany was in a time crunch, but so was the United States. They were desperately trying to get a heavier tank over to Europe, going so far as to set up factories and starting production runs for tanks that hadn't gone through their trials that then later had to be canceled because they realized the tank was bad. But that's just the thing. The Americans could decide when something was bad and then stop using it. The Germans, for some reason, have to just hold on to this thing and make it work when it's just not going to. And it's this kind of mentality that I think would ultimately cost them dearly in the war. If anyone else is a huge tank nerd like me, you'll be happy to know there are 2 of these things left. One pre and one post modification. The pre-modification Ferdinand is currently at the Kublinka Tank Museum.
PHP definitely. Only use Python for small one-off scripts really. Never did much with it. One of my most recent uses of Python was to communicate with a server. Trying to remember what it was. Similar to Sugar CRM. Don't remember it off. Oh, Salesforce. Salesforce had this weird protection deal. And it made it a real pain in the butt to work with. So. Okay. It looks like it works now. Content.
When sense is prevailing and logic is on the rise, our nonsensical heroes roll into action, donning their disguises.
Alright, let's see if it builds.
They flail into action. They are the meme tanks.
Gonna have to rip out a lot of this.
Meme tanks. Meme tank. Alright, getting back to my roots. I've had multiple requests to look at multiple different tanks, but most of them don't have enough information for a whole video. So I'm gonna do a couple of what I think are the most...
I got stuck in WordPress for years, thought it was great, but then I decided to try frameworks and was thinking about doing Rails. Found some nice tutorials from Jeffrey Way and wanted to find more from him, so I searched his name and found Laravel. I gave Laravel a try and never looked back. Refuse to even touch WordPress these days. God bless. That's kind of my story as well.
German commando unit that was to use Allied uniforms and equipment to impersonate American soldiers and cause confusion behind the lines via switching around road signs and other various forms.
Is it going to open the site? Okay, there we go.
Grief, or Griffin in German, were the brainchild of SS Commando Otto Skiertzny. For this, he requested thousands of English-speaking German soldiers, along with uniforms and hundreds of captured Allied vehicles. However, he only received a fraction of the English...
Well, I'm off for now. Going to do... Get my neighbor's yard pristine for the realtor coming on Wednesday. This is the neighbor whose son died. Oof. I'm sorry, my man.
To remedy this problem, Skiertzny
I am so sorry.
around 10 Panther Gs as American M10 tank destroyers called the Ersatz,
come on.
or False Panther. At least I think that's what that means. From what I can tell, it doesn't translate well. If anybody speaks German and knows a better translation, let me know. This was achieved by welding metal sheeting onto the Panther and removing its commander's cupola, essentially blinding the commander, to mimic the body of an M10 tank destroyer. And it does look sort of convincing. The problem is that there is no way to cover up or alter the suspension, which looks nothing like the M10's horizontal...
She wants to pay me and I hate it. I told her I'm not taking a cent. You're just a fantastic dude.
did not have a muzzle brake, and the Panther had to retain its obviously German muzzle brake to have the gun still safely recoil. So if this tank is approaching an Allied tank, the first thing the American tankers are going to see is the obvious German muzzle brake before they even see the disguise, which in and of itself, with all those things stated, is not too terribly convincing. I mean, look at it. An American tanker's gonna know that that is not on their side. The Germans also had to put markings on the tanks to signal to other German vehicles that they were friendly, most notably a yellow triangle on the rear of the tank, and the American tankers, upon not recognizing the symbol, would probably become suspicious. In action, the Ersatz Panther did not perform very well. For less than 2 days, the attack bogged down before they could capture any of their objectives.
Why is it
due to the first SS
being
not
bratty?
keeping up with them at their starting.
Why does it keep
After
failing?
this, Skiertzny made a request that the unit operate as a normal panzer brigade, essentially abandoning the mission, and 5 of the Panther M10s were destroyed before the operation concluded. Scoresby's deception unit, though, was able to cause some confusion behind enemy lines and a few friendly fire incidents between American soldiers. So his deceptive operations were not a failure, but this Panther nonsense
let's just scrap this for a little bit.
Premium tanks in World of Tanks.
This is home.
And in the real world, no M10 Panthers survive to this day.
Let's get rid of that.
Flail tanks employed by the British.
Wow! How original!
This design was actually an idea of a British South African soldier named Abraham de Troyes in 1941, and they eventually become one of the more popular variants in Hobart's Funnies. The flails were initially put onto Matilda II tanks and
refresh.
used in North Africa to some success. On the Matilda, the flail was powered by a separate engine housed in a box on the side of the hull that was operated by an additional crew member from within the box.
It's too slow compared to other editors, except Eclipse. There's many things I don't like about .NET. I can't stand Visual Studio. Neither. I am trying. I am very much trying.
The flail would kick up huge amounts of dust that would blind the crews to where they didn't know where they were going. But it also blinded German guns in the form of a kind of smoke screen, so that wasn't all bad. But the dust would also be sucked into the engines and cause frequent breakdowns. Also, the flail chains would sometimes be blown off the rotor and fly in any direction, possibly injuring friend and foe alike. Later, in Western Europe, the flails were
I had to use it when playing with Unreal Engine. It was painful.
To help the tank clear barbed wire and were used by the 79th
SBS now. Okay, so it's successful.
Attachments being lent out to other Allied units. The flails saw use mostly with the British Army, but had some limited use by the Americans.
Yeah, I would imagine
I would call this a meme tank because it was
if I could get away from .NET's engine, I'd be happy.
I mean, this is the definition of, hey, if it works, it works. Just because of how stupid it looks, and every time I see it, I always picture this. But it is still less retarded than this Rolly Boy. There's a handful of these surviving, most notably a Sherman
completion, extensive help, and integrate debugger. So slow! Why?
Meme machine. The mouse is what you get when you follow the German-Soviet heavy tank dick measuring contest to Hitler's overcompensating.
I don't care.
200-ton vehicle was what was.
Hey, have you thought about trying ReSharper by JetBrains instead, or Visual Studio's the requirement for the job too? I'm not sure if it's a requirement, but it's something where I want to at least have good enough so that when I go in, I'll be fine. I'm sure they'll be saying, hey, try this instead, try that instead. But I am 100% on board of trying almost anything when I get that opportunity. But it's probably going to be something that I will bring up if I ask, hey, any chance that I can use something else?
And what's he gonna do then, if he can neither run nor climb? There is one mouse prototype that survived the war. It's actually the turret of one prototype and the hull of another that was captured by the Russians and resides near Moscow. These are just 3 of my favorite meme tanks, among others that I've covered in the past, but let me know if there are any others that I should cover in the future. But I'm looking for real creativity here. The Bob Simple tank is just way too low-hanging fruit.
Alright, bundles. Where do I go ahead? So, okay, that would be the, essentially the components. Scripts render. .NET scripts.render. It's not for everyone, but definitely worth a try. I'm definitely going to go ahead and give it a try. I'm just open to almost anything. Bundling is all about compressing several JavaScript or style sheet files without any formatting, also referred to as minified, into a single file. For example, you could create your own bundle. Bundles add new script bundle. And render it like this. Alright, where would the bundler be? Yeah, I'm a fan of JetBrains. I have used PHP Storm for PHP JavaScript. Oh, so have I. I have actually used it with my previous job. I still need to send their laptop back, though. Oops. PyCharm for Python and IntelliJ for Java. I have not touched Java. I want to. I really do. Just haven't had an opportunity to. If there's also anything that you want to watch on particular or see, just let me know. Otherwise, I just play random music or videos in the background.
Now just got to pull off the defense.
And one drone's going to get worked on.
Register routes. Bundle. Where is bundle? Bundle config. Aha!
Already working on one Reaper, taking a little bit of damage of it. Spinecrawler started as well.
So far, no drones have gone down, which is important.
Good control.
Bundles dot add new script bundle. Bundles.
Very nice.
Still the spine crawler on the way.
Content. Bundle. Yep, it's just bundle. Bundle. Main. Dot include.
A few more lings actually being added on here. The Queens were actually focusing down the SCV, and I think they did get it during all that, so he has to cancel the second bunker.
Alright. Are they forcing me to use...
Clean defense here. Queens now backing up energy. Spinecrawler in range of the bunker, which has to be salvaged, and Zergling speed is on its way.
Content. You can try any of them for free, usually by downloading the latest EAP, Early Access Program, releases of their products. I jumped from EAP to EAP for about a year before realizing I could get a student license. I always figure when they say student license, they're like, you have to be in college and use a college email. Is that something that I completely not understand? Or misunderstood?
From the first game to the second game, everything he's doing right is wonderful to watch here. I'm gobsmacked with... I'm just finding it very difficult to speak right now, and it's my job to speak. Zergling's speed is almost finished. He's going to start to chase these down shortly.
Nope.
Good micro there by Mario, able to get one of the Queens for him, but yeah, you're right. He can't stick around here. He knew that spawning pool was wiggling.
Bundle.
Speed is on the way.
Yeah, speed is on the way now. He's adding on a couple of extra Zerglings, but this rush for now is over. Good defense. Shame he lost those two Queens near the end there. But overall, still ahead in supply, still ahead in economy. And the rush is now
Alright,
over
it's not
without
working.
into it, which that is either designed to kill you right out, which we've seen earlier on, despite it being a bit more intense versus Hydra earlier.
Come on. Build, 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 build. Well, I have to use... Well, I still have to have access to my college email address, but yeah. You're supposed to be in school to use it.
Wasn't enough lings to be able to bring that down. So at least Maru will get his salvation in bringing down these blocks. He's going to stay on the opposite side of them. Can jump away.
If I could just...
Yeah, he's gonna have to
Maybe I can buy a .edu domain.
to protect this third. This is going to be easily picked off.
That would be awesome.
Going to be jumping in the back, and they're almost on a suicide mission here if he splits these lings well once they end up popping. And he is going to split a few around the back, comes in here, but splitting them off means that these...
I actually only figured out how to get like a larger variety of domains, courtesy of me being able to go to the Russian side of the internet. So, that's fun.
Starting to heal up just a little bit, manages to get to the goal base for a few extra shots on those lings.
Yeah, nice micro by both sides.
And going to head on home. Now there's the potential transition from Maru here. Later on, he can use those Reapers in tandem with any units that do. Of course, now they have lost their edge for quite a while in this game.
Gonna break some rocks up here, which opens up the access to the third base, which Terran will naturally take up here to the north.
And even just a Marine in the middle, just to keep spot on whenever.
Makes me think that I need to go to the Russian side of the internet for sure. And maybe they'll let me register without complaint.
thinking about some extra gas income here, because he can't afford to get 1-1 upgrades, he can't afford the lair, he can't afford a Baneling nest.
But on Secret Springs, the pace of the game slows just a little bit. The rocks up to the top left, yes, are an annoyance for Maru. Once they get broken down, his third base is all the way over to the left, which is closer to these rocks. That's why we're seeing him break this down.
But Maru is not going to take the north base, which is very common and very normal here. He's floating his third command center to the gold base.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. And actually, it's going to get spotted instantly.
Okay, this is going to be a very aggressive game code out for Maru. He's going to be... Basically, whenever you play Tyrant versus Zerg, you either waypoint in between the second and third, or if you go aggressive with your third command center stance, you waypoint towards the third. Where Maru's third is pointing right at life's
Bundle main.
Right at life's potential fourth as well, depending on where he takes it.
Bundle main.
We are going to see parade pushes right down from north to south on this right-hand side.
So it's going to be inside of content.
A lot of production coming out from Maru, unless he's able to shut this down early on. Baneling Nest as well as Leia being added on for life, being very normal stuff. He's actually making a lot
New
more
script bundle, new script bundle, bundles.
Any links that he already has, I'm looking to swing on around. Is he actually just going to go?
He could overwhelm this gold base.
Yeah.
Depending on how many lings he gets out.
And you cut reinforcements off so well between these two
One is
locations.
almost done. It's about 50 seconds.
Let's give this a try.
There's going to be a lot of Baneling, Sean.
Because he knows that Maru is looking to take this gold base and really get this connection between his main base and the gold. And it looks like life is just trying to cut it in half and just
sight.
But if the supply lines are cut off here, he loads up a drop to try and help out the idea of these links.
Zara just blow that.
Doing a bit of damage here, but that is still a lot of links. Still not being produced, they're being banked up.
Yeah, and the links have to go
Let's see.
around to even get close.
And they're trying to get some of these marines on the back.
Any interesting ones?
Yeah, I'm not sure this is
not sure.
gonna work, this kind of idea. Maybe
he needs a ton of Banelings.
Is he going to try to Baneling bust through?
It's
through the wall here and get into the main base.
Well, how many Widow Mines does he have? He has 2 on the way. If he has Widow Mines in good locations,
See if it falls apart or not.
Maru is elevated 3 medevacs worth of units over past the gold base towards this third.
He could be completely out of position. There's also Banelings there as well to be able to try and deter it. The Widow Mines are actually burrowed. If he loses those, a lot of his defensive potential goes
Compilation debug.
on the right-hand side of the map as well here. The Banelings are going to force the lift up and have
Where
to
is
go
that?
home. And the Banelings are in the base.
Web config.
And defense.
Oh my god, he's going to lose so much here if he's not careful. He needs to separate everything up. All the reinforcements are being cut off as they come out of the barracks. He's trying to bring back all of those medevacs. As this is
So
going
slow.
he's lost so much back home.
And there is a lot more Zerglings on the way to the other side of the map here to continue this onslaught.
Such an unconventional attack path here, considering the base layout, but Life, once again, has found a way through into the main base, into the natural. Links are going over to the gold base as well.
How did you get into learning the Russian language? What motivated you to do so? I decided to learn Russian because I have a few Russian friends and they often spoke Russian around me, and some of them were just more comfortable speaking Russian, so it just kind of made sense to learn Russian so that I just don't go ahead and say, "Speak English! This is America!" I didn't want to be that person. Though it does make for some funny and hilarious situations because I happen to speak Russian. I'm Republican. I'm a programmer. Can make a lot of people go,
The onslaught has stopped now, and Maru continues.
What's nice about a .ru domain? Only costs about $3.
But this gold base is really powering them up pretty strong here, having a lot of SCVs mining minerals here.
Presuming.
Life neglected the Spire and his 4th base. He really wanted to win the game there and then with that type of strategy, but it didn't work, and now Maru is the player who's
$1 USD to ruble. Yeah, it's about $1 US for 64 rubles and 49 kopecks if they still use kopecks. I don't think they do.
Well, 3 medevacs looking to deal damage here. No Mutilus out. Very difficult to stop them bouncing between these 2 bases here. A perfect position to go from this base here to lift up to go back to the thirds.
He's on top of some of the production, and those Banelings should be able to once again shoo this away. But you're right, he can bounce between those two locations. So annoying for a Zerg to deal with.
Demand and just delete. Okay. Well, that sucks.
That bunker is causing
.ru.com. The heck?
He gets a few of them though. 14 have gone down in that window of time. Also another wraparound.
Oh, that's really nice.
Continues to go for this round. Maru has to pick up and get back out again.
I feel like if I want, I feel like I could just run a business of getting people cheap domains, just courtesy of the fact that I speak Russian and do a little bit of arbitrage in that way. Like, this here is $1, $3, $3.
Location to find out how well he is doing in this game, and I think he's probably quite content with his position down here. Even drops it at the goal base as well, confirming how much of a little bit of lead he's got going
okay,
into this third base.
That works.
His income is higher. Keep the pressure on this third base, and you will eventually break it.
Very difficult for Maru Life to deal with here, I should say. With only 4 Mutalisks, it's Banelings only that are really trying to keep him in this. And even his Mutalisks can't get too much done at that goal base. So what a great choice it was by Maru to eventually...
But yeah, I have a genuine passion for the language. I have even a Twitter for it. Learn new Russian words daily. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, the problem that Maru's facing now is he's keeping half and half. His half army back at home and half army attacking because he's not sure if the attacks are gonna
learn new Russian words daily.
From this point on, you can go back to what the very basic plan was. Is to
Alright, let's take a gander as to why it doesn't like me.
To counterattack all the time like he was doing before, where his income was much higher. Maru just needs to
CK editor is not defined.
Behind in terms of his tech before, he hasn't really had any opportunities to shut down this Widow Mine field that has been created here. As he tries to push in again, the splits are good, the Widow Mines do their job. Life is really on the ropes at this third base. If this ends up falling, then you can say...
So I need to refresh that.
As the Mutalisks aren't going to be able to do enough here to be able to push back all of
words
this.
daily.
Reinforcements still keep coming for Maru.
They're also pretty...
Learn new Russian words daily.com.
over there as well, but when these mines recharge and more units streaming across, if you look at the minimap, Life must not lose
JS build.
hatchery. It is so important to keep this alive. If it dies, it ends. It's that simple.
It's such a safety net to have those Widow Mines to retreat back to here for Maru as Life is trying to find a small
not in there.
here and there. Drops a scan, sees how many Banelings are morphing in, decides to poke forwards.
Alright, for starters, we need to rip this out. Let's see if it builds properly or if it's just gonna give me grief every step of the way. Super old site of mine.
And he's got his +3 attack and +2 armor on the way. There's so many...
I'd like to learn Spanish, but I can't roll my R's to save my life. It irritates me and I just gave up. Oh man. Fun fact. The English R is actually the anomaly. The rolled R is far easier. You could learn. I am very confident that you could learn. It's just one of those things of being comfortable enough to do so. The Russians actually describe their version of brr as if they're growling. CK editor is not defined.
There's always more Marines on the way, 11 in production at any time. Just rallied across there. It's so hard for Life to do.
And now it's about to get even more difficult with a +2 armor upgrade.
Fine. If it wants me to put it in.
Now let's see him compete against these Marines. They're leveled up.
They are Super Saiyan Marines here. Gonna do so much damage against this small force, this small poultry force that Life has. Really not much available to him all. As much as Banelings can try and turn things around, the Widow Mines recharge again, kill off the remaining Mutalisks, and all he has left is 12 Lings on the field. How are you going to be able to compete with +3 weapons on these Marines?
He's not Kalaris. It's quite simple at this point that Life is
So slow.
Had a very valiant defense here, a very good try to hold this, but his third hatchery is 50%, and like I said, when that goes down, the game is virtually over.
Such Such impressive aggression. GG. Two goes to Maru. He ties up the series 1-1.
I'm not very confident. I have some medical limitations. Not sure if I physically am capable of doing it. If it weren't for the medical issues, I just practiced until I got it.
Likewise here. The shoe is on the other foot now.
May I ask what those are?
Was able to deal with it pretty darn well.
Very cool series so far.
Is it something involving the tongue?
Gone into this best of 7. Life still sticking to how he played in game number 1 and how he's played for the rest of the series. Never second guessing himself. He saw the gold base being taken and said, I am going to
Drops a bait. How you doing?
That you're trying to waypoint through the middle, and you can't possibly defend 2 locations at once. If I'm able to get right in the middle, you choose which one you're going to defend, and the other I will attack.
Oh my gosh.
Decision. It was awesome to see that was his plan to combat this, but unfortunately Maro was able to defend in 2 different locations.
Gosh darn.
That dedication to that strategy from Life.
Overrun by CSS selectors. Oof. I hear you there, man. I hear you there. I am currently trying to integrate Vue.js with my .NET project so that I can show that I'm capable of learning.
It was all about the parade push, the typical parade push that we've seen over the years of
oh my gosh.
Pointing their units to the economy of the Zerg and eventually
Закрыть программу.
In theory, it's all good.
Okay.
Even in real life conflict, it's a tactic that is employed quite often. Cut off the supply lines. Cut that in half. Didn't quite work there.
This is borderline rage-inducing.
But now, Maru ties it up 1-1. So, his third map is going to be on deck.
Any chance that I can...
I'm really hoping for cross spawns. I'm really hoping that we do get cross spawns so we can have a nice long game between these two. But that was Maru showing that yes, he is
Throw you
able
to the corner.
to compose himself, because there was a lot of pressure hitting him, and he was able to do
Bash.
it. So that gives
Close.
us good hope here as the series
What is
continues.
eating all of my resources?
And it's always nice to see with the Intel Extreme Masters.
Streamlabs is eating a large amount of it.
Traveling to many different continents, many different countries. All the StarCraft 2 fans that come out here, there's a lot of people. There is a lot of people in the audience right now watching and cheering for their favorite player between the two. And if you're a StarCraft fan, you know who the hell Life is. You know.
So rage-inducing.
And it is a pleasure for us all to sit here.
C:/users Skynet source.
It's so close between the both of them. We could see it go the distance.
I can see the excitement in you, Sean. So let's get into it. Game number 3 now in this best of 7. As we have spawning in the top right-hand corner. It's our blue Terran. It's Maru. Down to the bottom right-hand corner, we have our red Zerg. After falling in the second game, can he take number 3? It's Life.
Here we go. Get bash.
Right.
Hey, such a pain. I had childhood cancer around the age of 2, and I had chemo and radiation to the left side of my neck, jaw, and upper back. As a result, I have a lot of muscle paralysis, atrophy on the left. I have a lot of on the left and underdeveloped jaw, tongue, and throat. Unilateral vocal cord paralysis, floating scapula, hypothyroidism, immunodeficiency. Life is great. That's... wow. Wow. That is definitely...
Going on. At least for him, he sent his Overlord in the correct direction to start things off. So we'll be able to spot.
No. Stop. Stop. 4.7k dentistry fees. That is definitely on the rough side, my man.
So what's Life going to opt to do? He goes for the spawning pool after hatchery first. And this drone
just wow.
So
I think the largest dentist bill I've ever had was about $800, and it was for a root canal. I didn't take care of my teeth for a bit. 3 root canals and 3 crowns. Stuff is expensive. Yeah, stuff is expensive.
giving him that information. You don't have to, but he does.
Yeah, Life wants to get this overlord all the
Oh,
way behind
that's
the
why.
base. He went in, saw the gas
Oh,
fields,
it also affected my equilibrium, which resulted in 63 degrees scoliosis. Minor detail I forgot to mention. My man, me too. My man. Wow. That is rough. Oh yeah, stuff. I'm British. I swear a lot. I'm sorry. No, you can swear all you want. It's just I don't. I have a potential employer sometimes checking out my streams, so yeah. I love hearing about other people's issues. You've had a flat tire today? Oh, must be horrible. Your life is ruined now. Your attitude towards this is pretty interesting, to say the least. Though I did actually at one point have like flat tires almost every other week, and it was devastating to my bank account for a while. Eventually I got nicer tires, so it stopped happening. And I started getting warranties, so magically my tires stopped popping. So, I don't know what that's about. I mean, issues are all relative, though. Sometimes they're relative, unless someone's problems become someone else's. Then it becomes a major... Oop.
So takes his own gas himself behind this at the natural to get himself up and running.
Well, I say exactly.
Come on, install.
Type of build is coming out that usually pushes around aggression. Doesn't know if it's Hellbat or, you know...
For one, not having food is normal, like something they struggle with daily. But for the other, it would have them depressed for crashing their Ferrari. In the United States, it takes a special kind of effort to be hungry, unless if you live in like a food desert. Yeah, there are always people who have it worse, so I always try not to complain because you never know what others are going through. Reminds me of something my father told me when I was growing up, where you should just try to be polite to everyone. Like, when someone's coming through the grocery store, they're buying strawberries, you don't know if they're buying it for a funeral, or if they're buying it for... because they like strawberries. You never know.
You'd rather have some Zergling speed going on, especially after only taking the one gas around the 550 mark. So
I personally just try to keep a very positive attitude on everything. And your issues could appear minor to someone else, though I really doubt that in your case.
Means that he can get as much mine from those drones that would go into it before he actually does.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Second one gets put in production as well. Double engineering bay goes down, and he did see the spore crawlers and decided not to, do anything with the.
It does fix itself. And once this is done, I don't think I really need to do any more compiling.
Yeah, just very standard opening.
Let's go ahead and take a gander at pages, contact.
Into engineering base, into extra production.
Yeah, it fires over to my API over here. But I need to have it fire locally so I can demonstrate APIs on my local system and .NET that I know how to get the routing to work. Then after it listens, I need to fire it off to AW or Azure. At minimum, I need to be able to get it to load or recognize that I'm communicating with it. And maybe I can fire it to my API here. Show that I can route it through Azure, no problem. Then, let's see. What else? Yeah, that should be the scope of this project.
Oh, it doesn't cancel. That's a nice pickup there for Maru with these Banshees, considering that they couldn't get exactly to the mineral lines that they wanted to. So a full kill on that hatchery is a really nice start.
But he is already playing against a 70 drone Zerg.
Yeah.
On 3 bases, and it's about to be 79 drones as 9 more have been created. And Life's just had a free ride to Drone City for the last 10 minutes here. He's minimal amounts of defensive units out. He's got very good creep spread already.
Load.
He's got a fantastic economy.
Yeah, he didn't necessarily need to spread the creep towards the 4th base just then, but if he does, it means that he can actually defend from those Banshees with the Queens if they want to come. If the Banshees want to come back, he gets all of the Hellions in the middle of the map.
Yeah, he gets all the Hellions, and then he
The one thing that does annoy me, though, is when people try to say, you're beautiful, you look great, scientifically, due to deformities. I know I'm factually not. Just get annoyed by people lying to make someone feel better. I'd rather they be truthful or say nothing at all. Well, I think it really does fall into the realm of some people definitely will be nice and will turn around and just say, hey, relative to all other situations, in this very moment, you are very decent looking. Or presentable. Most days I just try to make sure that my hair is done and my face is washed. Beyond that, I just throw on whatever is in my closet and good to go.
Keeping that medevac alive. Good reactions there by Maro as he drops on in, but he's going to have to pick up and get out of there.
He's going to
come on.
Down to the fourth. A nice position here for Terran to go in between these two bases.
And these Marines will probably be cleaned up. Still no pickup, so regardless, gets pushed away. And more drops being loaded up.
At this stage of the game, as a Terran player, before your 2-2 is ready, you're looking to do as much damage as possible with drops and these two Banshees, of course, because he's got them out, to slow the Zerg down for when your 2-2 is ready and your army size hopefully is now bigger. Because you've slowed the Zerg down, you can look for a killer fight.
And he's going to actually have to be pushed back again here. Drops a few of those Marines because there was
No,
only
what?
one Baneling, or a couple of Banelings there. Drops a few as he picked them up to trade off.
Looking not big news. It should be there.
That are going to do some damage to the drones. And he's also got a good position against these Zerglings as well. But the Baneling manages to squeeze through.
Hey, me too. If you would like to suggest a video that I put on, I am more than happy to. They're talking about a StarCraft game. It's just something I like to have in the background while I'm working.
10 drones, a lot of harassment. He's killing creep in the middle. Very good play here from Maru.
Yeah, that first game really seems like a blip at this point, as he is playing a lot better now in game number 2, game number 3, likewise, pushing through the middle, keeping up in terms of supply.
But as much as he has,
Is there a refresh? StarCraft is amazing, I agree. Alright, I am going to go ahead and just crash this for now and reload it.
Actually does push forward, so the Widowmines did a lot of damage to his own Marines. Oh, but he gets a lot of Banelings with the extra Widowmine. And he's going to pull back for now as well.
I love the lore of StarCraft as well. But if anyone else wants to watch anything else, please do make a suggestion. I'd vote for music, but that could result in your vids being muted though, so I tend to avoid suggesting that anymore. Oh, as far as I'm concerned, it's all about showing my workflow. Warcraft. Man, I actually was playing Warcraft vids earlier. But feel free to suggest some music. I'm more than happy to put that on.
He just wants to hammer a fight home through the middle of this area where he's cleared up a lot of creep. He's killed another 11 drones. He hasn't got a fourth command center. He's actually added on 3.
Age of Empires was okay.
Pumping out these units. He's gonna be dropping in multiple locations, and he's hoping to win this game in the next couple of minutes here.
Oh, this. Yeah, we can go ahead and do the Stranglers Golden Round. My only request is no wrap, and on top of that, preferably on the cleaner side. Okay. What if it's a Christian rap? No, I don't know any, but I'm sure there is some. Nah, it's just that I find a lot of rap music to not be very polite.
Every time, just like the last, on the ship, tied to the mast, to distant lands, takes both my hands, never a frown, with golden brown.
But yeah, I like my music to feel polite, on the up and up. Ah, I got in trouble with Facebook. I enjoy slow and upbeat stuff. I mean, it's really hard for anything to... I like most music. But yeah, Facebook got mad at me immediately. As soon as I started playing this. Lol. Are you kidding me? Just work. No. Browser Google. Why does it... So, yesterday, I found this weird bug in my HTML where it would show random CSS at the top of my page in letters, and no matter what I did, it wouldn't fix it. It took me 40 minutes to realize I was refreshing the wrong page. Oh, man. Oh, man. I so get that. I so get that, man. Oh, man. Come on. Why are you... Okay, I don't care. Okay, yeah, sure. I can definitely tell you how CSS selectors work. All it really is it focuses on a handful of things. And you need to go ahead and understand how the selectors work by merit of values. For example, when you're looking at an element, let's say that you want to modify your p tags, it should be recognized to be worth something like 100 points. Whereas you can look at index or the IDs. This is my cool ID. This will immediately be pointing towards your IDs. And this is my cool class. This will be pointing towards your class. And the best way to look at this is this will be worth 1 point. This will be worth 100 points, this will be worth, 1, 10, then 100. So 100, 10, 1. And the way I actually went ahead and learned about it, CSS selectors, stormtroopers. This is probably one of the best guides I've ever had. Guides. Bleh. For this. Yes, you would need to add "this is my cool ID" to the div in question. So, for example, you would need to have inside of div ID, "this is my cool ID," and you'll be able to apply the values into that div. You mean the CSS specificity or just how selectors work in general? No, you would want ID. So, div class, "this is my cool class." And then key. And you can override some stuff from one level or another, but you would need to throw things like important into it. IDs should only be used once per page, but what will happen when you use, that definitely would be the best way to go. It's courtesy of jQuery going ahead and only ever picking like the first instance of that. ID, "this is my cool idea," then "this is my cool idea." No. You need to use the pound. Pound, "this is my cool ID." You need to specify the version of it with this pound or the dot. The dot is for class, pound is for ID. How would you address 500 different divs though? You just give them all different ID? I would recommend creating a class to handle that many. But that's my personal preference. But here is a good tutorial. The important tag will override almost everything and anything. But yeah, I actually first used that when I was in one of my first jobs. Any music recommendations? As you guys are staring at my subscriptions. And I don't want to get copyright stricken. Give the important ones different classes. You can stack classes too, so an element can be class BG red border 1. Yep. Can definitely do that. All right. Come on. Come on. Work faster. I'd look up some tutorials on it though. Drops of bait. There's too much to really explain in a chat. Oh yeah. The link I sent should help a lot, I think. Come on. Yeah, probably after this, I'm going to be looking into seeing if I can run .NET off of my server, because this is just completely unacceptable in my opinion. But I already do have it declared. Bundles. The heck? Bundles dot. Did it just... Bundles slash bundle view include content bundle main.js proto-sheet. It better not have removed it. Zapusti. Also, Mathis projects. IDs being unique isn't a jQuery thing, it's part of the HTML spec. Today I learned! Come on. Come on. This is the slowest of the slow. Oh, it's in there twice. The heck? Stop. New script bundle. Bundles view. Bundle view. Bundles view. Bundle. Dot validate. Should have probably dropped it in there. Thank you very much, me too. I don't know what I could possibly be missing. Anyway, I have to head out. Nice chatting. Yeah, it was nice talking with you too. Okay. It was working a few minutes ago. That's frustrating on my side. Does it just take issue because of... So what if I do that, and then I go ahead and drop this into it happens. Bundle main. Let's see. So, okay, with that in there. Assets, JS. Scripts bundle. So. New files. Show all files. Show. Okay. Cheat. All right. Let's give this a try. Let's see if it works. So if I need to include it in the project, package JSON, no, the package Are you kidding me? I promise it's there. Scripts under ref. Script bundle. Bundles, my bundle. Bundle main.js. Did it seriously just... Come on. Come on. Finally. C module is not defined. What? Oh. Oh, sweet Jesus. I am wrapping up a build in Google Apps Script today at work. I forgot how tedious ES5 can be. The struggle's real. Struggle is so real. Okay, run, watch. What are you working on? Well, I have an interview tomorrow. And courtesy of those interviews, I actually need to be able to demonstrate that I know enough C#.net. So right now, I am currently doing battle with my Visual Studio environment to go ahead and work with Vue.js on .net. So I'm currently learning .net. Though I'm mostly battling with my environment more than anything else. Cannot find element app. Crash course in C#. Yep. That is exactly what's going on. So, view start, layouts, render body, yes. Div ID app. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's just working with new environments, you know? I know init isn't a function. Why is it even there? So let's go ahead and display capture, hide that, and then show that. There we go. Property method is loaded, is not defined in the instance. Okay. Almost there. Container is loaded. Almost there. Almost there. Oh my god. User is not defined on... Where is it getting user? Change habits. I don't need this. Finally, getting something to show. Yeah, the actual programming should be similar enough. My friend who got me into JS is a C#.NET developer. Huh. That's pretty cool. Just gotta get it cooperating. Template alert component. Why do I keep jumping into the wrong place? Let's go ahead. Oops, wrong one. I make sure to thank him on a regular basis. I think we're just happy to have other people who understand our pain. That's at least how I feel. Let's see, where is it? Oh, automation is where I want to be. I want to jump into templates, Laravel, resources, JS, admin, templates, alert box component. Alert box component. Rename. So now that we have that, then we can go ahead and build components.js. Then we jump over to here. Okay, with that fix, then inside of components, I'm going to need this. Nope, we just need then there we go. Bada bing, bada boom. Alrighty. So now I need to get Bootstrap 4 installed on this. What Bootstrap version are you? Let's see, if I jump into public, CSS, Bootstrap 4, let's see. Content, Bootstrap CSS, Bootstrap map, min CSS map. I don't have anything for theme, so what do you do when you know you are writing bad code, difficult to reason about later, but do not have time to do it right? I'm just commenting to-dos. I am moreover about function over design. I go ahead and leave a to-do in the code, but I also go ahead and use a project management system. American dialectic, zing. What I go ahead and do is I just put down notes of things that I know I can do better. So, yeah, it's just something for me to go ahead and do, and if I want to get into more details, can easily click in, add comments. But yeah, FruitCamp is super awesome. I'm actually half tempted to pay a subscription for it. There we go. Boom. And now I can jump onto here, view start. Nope, layout. I don't really need any of, I don't need this, or this really, since I'm rendering it all in there. I can take this bit and I could break this out into a component eventually. Bada bing, bada boom. It's working in that direction. Alright. Just get this out of the way. So let's make sure it works. Div class container. Alright, there's a little spacing up there for whatever reason. Let's go take care of that. Site CSS. Padding left, padding right, body. Padding top, I don't need that. Alright, then I can set up my routers to be pushing that. So I'm going to need about me, contact me. So let's grab this, grab this. Alright, looks fine to me. So now that I have that, that's really weird spacing. Oh well, I mean, let's just get it out the door, I guess. So now we need to have it push. So views, home, do not need. .NET. CSHTML. C#. .NET. CS. C#. Alright, it looks like I'm gonna have to use Visual Studio, but UJS router. Getting started. Contact me. Router. .me contact. Oh. Alright, so technically works. Fantastic. Now it's able to jump around, no problem. So now that it's pointing to everything correctly, now I needed to fire off an API from Contact. Yikes. So fire away. Tayvas. Okay. Needs to fire locally, and if it's going to be firing locally, needs to do helpers API local. So it'd be fire. Okay, data endpoint. Console.log. Build. Import local from helpers / API.local.js. How do I typically bring it in? API open. So it'd be something like that. And if I'm trying to pull from this, okay. Today I learned. Let's see if that works. Awesome. So now, Web API config. I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick, so be right back. Alright. Back to it I go. So, need to go ahead and route. So then in here, could rip this out. So namespace public class. But that's just how it's broken down. Even see controllers. Like API config. You know, routes resource XD. Controller home. But where would I define that? Web config. Web routing. Defining a controller. I already know how MVC works, I just need to understand it in this context. Global ASICs. Web API config routing. Register routes. Route table routes. The heck? Let's just poke around in here. Interesting. Okay. Close all of you. The default route defined in global through default values. API v1 controller. Stop. Looks like to be the same. Doesn't like me returning that. Where did it go? Web API config. Fine. API segment. Easy enough. Once a matching route is found, it selects the controller. The action div. Controller to the value of controller variable. Find the action. Web API looks at the HTTP verb. Let's start with get, such as get contact or get all contacts. Okay, so I would need to API controller. Okay. Ah. Products. It really is one of the best phrases ever. Yeah, I'm pretty fond of things like that. I am a fan of using a variety of memes. I don't need that. Don't need that. Add that. There we go. If you have any memes to throw my way, please do. API with JavaScript. What do I return? Ah, so I would need to return public would need to return okay. I actually need to get running in about 5-10 minutes because I have to meet up with one of my recruiters. She's taking me out to lunch to prep me for my interview tomorrow. So let's go ahead and see. I don't need any of this. That API. So email and fire. Let's see if it works. Come on. Movoodoo. For memes. If you have an album of it. That is great. I am so saving that. Send me all the memes. Oh, darn you. And I'll see if I can get that new meme loaded in. Programming memes. Boom, boom. Alright, contact me. Network. Network. Fire away! Did it not work? Or... This is a response. Okay, I have the API now talking. This makes me very happy. So now that I can go ahead and communicate with it, I need to connect with Azure and see if I can load it up with other commands on top of that. So that will be a fun project for tomorrow morning, if not tonight. Because as far as I'm concerned, being able to get this to where I am at, well, I guess it's just proof that I can work in it and understand the concepts well enough and know the right questions to ask. If it's just appends controller to email, I don't know, but it seems to just do that for whatever reason. So, yay. It's passing. Okay, let's actually break out the parameters. Parameters. Products equals new product. C# API variable object hast. Is it just string args? Alright. Let's go ahead and pass just to be... Let's test this real quick. Please work. Maybe tonight I'll actually just figure out if I can get this running off of my machine that's in the cloud, so that I can turn around and just focus on developing there, as opposed to developing locally. Because developing locally is definitely not working out, courtesy of my super ancient machine. Come on. Console, network. Fire away! Alright, it did not capture the variables for whatever reason, but I actually need to get going right about now, so for those that are here, thanks for hanging out, and please follow and hang out with me next time. Bye, everyone.